Welcome everybody to our Nomasis webinar. My name is Nadine and today we talk about fully achieving phishing resistant users in the modern enterprise. The session lasts about 30 minutes. Please notice that the webinar will be recorded and during the presentation your microphones will be set to mute and your camera is switched off. You may post questions during the session through the chat function to the host, and the questions will then be answered at the end of the session, or you can directly unmute yourself at the end of the webinar. So now I would like to hand over to Patrick. You can start your presentation.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining Nomasis webinar session of today. I'm very pleased to introduce Patrick Schnell of Yubico. He's Senior Channel Manager, and Ashwin Saminathan from PointSharp as Solutions Engineer Leader. So what is it about? As you might know, every second a phishing attack takes place. And of course, when you click the link, then things can happen, and human error is the main cause in such cases. And the biggest risk, or let's say the main goal for a phishing attack, is an account takeover, which can then lead to unwanted things like accessing companies, networks, etc. And of course, the big point there are the passwords, because when you enter a password in a phishing link, then the attacker will take over your password in your account. And passwords basically are very user unfriendly and of course a big risk when we talk about phishing attacks. Then of course we can help with MFA, but traditional MFA does maybe limit the issues, but does not really avoid phishing attacks. So now my question to Patrick, what can we do to really become phishing resistant?
Thanks, Patrick. Funny show. Yeah, I think welcome from my side. I'm from Yubico, the vendor of this clever little product YubiKey. So you may see it a few of times now in the rest of the presentation. Ashwin, I'll look to you. No, we talk about this phishing resistancy. We're talking even about a phishing resistant user and not the phishing resistant technology. I'll let you know a bit later why this is an important fact and how this partnership with PointSharp and in a bit more extent with Nomasis can help you to achieve this modern company phishing resistant users. So what we talk about is no, I cannot. Now it's working. We're talking about passwordless. So get rid of these passwords because we need to see where we come from. This is this low level of security, bad UX, password thing, 12 signs. You need to change it every other week. You have a lot of applications asking you to do so. Then we introduce some nice stuff like OTPs or apps to push, display token, whatever. So there is progress, but it's still phishable because people can always do man-in-the-middle attacks to get through these credentials or maybe steal your session. So there's a lot of attacks around there, very easy attacks. It starts from free things you can download on GitHub to start your first phishing campaign. And then there is, let's say, higher level of security where we become in the area of passkeys or smart cards, where we have all this functionality that we can remove the password and replace it by a much better technology, which is based on a public-private key pair, which is generated on the device, never leave the device. And now you think, oh, this sounds terrible from the UX. Think about your banking card you use every other day in the shop or on the cash machine. It's the same think of idea to have the bank knows a public key, my card knows a private key, and I know the PIN to my card to release it, and everybody trusts it. And I don't need a password for using it. I have my card, I know something, I have something, and I have my PIN, I know something. So this is really this high level of security, and YubiKey can help you to come through, let's say, this bridge. And the most important thing is, yes, we like to gain security, but there is a lot more in it. If we remove the password, we remove a lot of friction. We remove a lot of password resets that you don't need anymore, because if users don't own a password, they cannot forget it. Clever thing. There is a lot of waste of time. Think about how all these processes of recovery and getting people to work again even starts with how long people take to log into the machine. Think about everybody needs a minute every day of the year, every other year. So there's a lot of money going down any other river to waste the time. And the most important things, Patrick mentioned it, you don't like to have account takeovers, and this technology can really help you solve that issue. You will not have account takeovers if you use that technologies. So we can summarize, you can save a bit of money by optimize your process and make all these ridiculous old things going away, passwords going away, and you can at the same moment gain extra security that maybe your insurance company like. This is security that most likely your compliance, whatever it is called, would like to have. So it's very good to get rid of these passwords. But if you follow me correctly, I still have the PIN. So it sounds like a password, it feels a bit like a password, but it isn't a password. And for me, it's really important to have for you all the understanding what is the difference. We have something, this is our YubiKey, and we know something, this is the PIN. The PIN or a fingerprint is only locally to my device, only my device and I know it, not the third-party service anywhere in the cloud. They only need my public key. So there is no PIN in any database on the other side. So this is really a good thing to have. This is very secure, because if a device gets stolen, it's still protected against somebody who find it and cannot use it directly. So I have enough time to have a proper process to revoke credentials and make sure that the user is back again working. With passwords, you have all the great things. You need to save it in a database. You need to transfer it back and forth, check it. And that's what attackers like, because every time you do this, they jump in and reroute it and steal your session and get a big smile because it's so easy to do so. So it's a really good idea to get rid of these. So a bit of our product, that's what we have. We are a Swedish-American company. We produce these things in Sweden for whole of the rest of world market, which is not North America's. So you get a product out of Europe, which have a very high level of insurance. We even hold some special certifications like FIPS, you may see in finance or other branches. But there's a big variety of YubiKeys. All, let's say, are more or less this keychain format. Some of them are a bit bigger, some smaller, some have NFC functionality. But you can see a lot of these keys have a lot of protocols we can speak. And let's say the real benefit of such a YubiKey is that it's multi-protocol. You can use it with every application you want to. You can use it in the company. Ashwin will show you later how this can work in an enterprise, but the same key at the same time can be used to help people to protect their own TikTok account or their cryptocurrency exchange or whatever people doing. They have all the same issues by logging in every day with, stupid passwords. And we know about the risk, and this product can even help them in their private life to get more secure. If you have any questions to the specifics of each of the form factors, I think we can follow up later on. Reach out to Nomasis and they give you great advice, which is the right one for your organization. Let's jump over these because I'm out of time or running out of time. The main use case for YubiKey, and I think that's really important to talk about this all this compatibility. We do not have a own backend solution, for example. We only support this variety of protocols that can be used in different systems. So you may have the opportunity to register the YubiKey with every other application you have because they have support for one of these protocols. So you can start using YubiKey immediately, adding it to every single account you have, and you have more security. Of course, yes, you have. But in the enterprise world, that is not what we like to have, because that makes things nothing easier. If a key gets lost, people get crazy because they need to go to 8 places to make a revocation, set up a new one. You can imagine this is not a very cool thing to save money, automate things, and have better security. You get better security, but it has a bit of a add-on in work you can have when something not work like expected. And then you have the right world, which is the right world in my opinion, where you have a more centralized approach. And most of enterprises do have already centralized identities. They have it in old systems like their local AD. They may have Entra ID. They may have solutions like PointSharp to manage their identities. And this is a very clever thing to do. And you will see later on why this is so clever. Exactly why you can do it with PointSharp good, but think about the concept. You have only one relation between identity and a user, and this one big line you secure the most best way, passwordless, phishing resistant, and you use this identification, authentication along all your other business applications you have in your enterprise, and you use functions like single sign-on later on to go to every single workload you have. You authenticate against your local ID, you authenticate maybe against some cloud services, whatever. You have only one identity, and the user have in the best case only one registration for that identity on his device. Maybe you have a couple of devices to have a backup, but mostly they have a one-to-one relation with their identity. And now think again about joiner, mover, leaver process. Think about recovery. This makes things a whole lot easier to do so. And there is a lot of solutions out there can help you with doing that. And I think PointSharp is one of the that can help you come over these challenges that comes along with managing identity. And there's always this dotted line of a YubiKey. We support also some of these very broadly used services with OTP. So you can still generate an OTP with your YubiKey. You may find a legacy application in your environment that is today not ready to go to single sign-on. You can still use the same key to do so. So, oh, that was one too fast. So we need to see if we can look on phishing resistant authentication is most efficient if we can go across platforms. You can go across devices because a YubiKey will work on this device, it works on your Windows computer, it works on your Mac computer, it works on your Linux workstation. And you can do a cross scenario. So you saw it in the first picture, you can have your PointSharp doing all your enterprise authentication, but you may have your telephony system that is very old and it did not know what is single sign-on, and it will not learn how to use single sign-on. So you will still able to use it along. And now I come to my end of the presentation. When we remove phishing from organizations, we need to think about the whole process of a user. And this not only is what they do every other day with login phishing resistant, that already starts with how the first YubiKey get deployed for the user. How do I make then the authentication with this high level of phishing resistance? And of course, what will be my recovery process if something is not right and I need to hand over a new key or giving access to an employee, then in all these phases, I need phishing resistant. And as of today, YubiKey is great with the thing in the middle. So we can help you to do every authentication phishing resistant, but there is more to the story because exactly these other pillars, we need support from our friends like PointSharp. They have clever solutions to jump in. And if I'm not right, I think that's it from Yubico side.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. This time I didn't forget to unmute myself. Great. So we just learned that YubiKey makes us phishing resistant and avoids annoying password changes, etc., and leverages our security. But as Patrick said, they need to be onboarded, managed, and maintained. And I would like to know from you, Ashwin, how PointSharp can help us in the management of YubiKeys and how we can really do that efficiently and with low administration efforts.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Patrick for the time. And I'm going to do this. You will probably try to see a little bit. I also have a YubiKey, but I'm a bit lazy, so I have the small version which I can carry inside my computer. So thank you for the opportunity. And as Patrick has mentioned, I mean, personally, I think the YubiKey is the more special phishing resistant form of authentication that we have ever seen, right? But one of the things which is true is, let me see if I'm getting this correctly. One more, here we go. The YubiKey at the end of the day is a hardware device, right? And hardware device, we have to distribute it to the different users inside of our organization. We have to make sure that all the users who have a physical device actually get it enrolled inside the system, right? And those are generally questions that we get when we're talking to customers. It's like, oh, I have decided I'm going on the YubiKey because it offers me the best form of authentication, user-friendly, phishing resistance, and everything. But I still have some questions, right? How do I enroll a user in a phishing resistant manner? How do I revoke a user if I need to? If someone has forgotten his YubiKey, how do I manage temporary access? How do I make sure that like the PIN that we are using is complex enough, right? And then there's also some very logistical approach because it is a hardware devices that we are putting in the hands of different people. It's like, well, I kind of want to know who has what YubiKey, right? Or if I find a YubiKey on the shop floor or into my office floor, looking at the serial number, should I be able to actually know who has that YubiKey, right? And those are some of the questions, actually most of the questions here, that with the solutions that we have at PointSharp, we can solve. I'm not going to be delving today into our single sign-on solutions and our support for legacy applications together with the YubiKey and how we expand the reach as well. But today I wanted to talk literally about all those operational aspects that, generally speaking, customers like yourself who are actually using, who decide to go to YubiKeys for phishing-resistant authentication have at the back of their mind. More specifically, because a lot of us actually have experience from hardware devices from back in the day, right? And we always think like, okay, there was trouble. How do we solve that? And let me tell you a little bit about what we do. Right. So we have a management system, a lifecycle management system, which we call NetID Portal. And what it does is actually this gives you like the backend administration that you need to be able to manage your YubiKeys at scale inside your environment. So this specific tool is actually based on a PKI-based approach, but we can support others as well. And from NetID Portal, what we can give to the users is actually a very high level of self-service. They can actually enroll themselves with a YubiKey. So we have done for other customers before, like the possibility of like, you have your machine. The first time you insert a YubiKey which is empty, we actually detect it and offer you immediately the opportunity to log in with an extra authentication method if we want to, and enroll your YubiKey with a certificate inside the appropriate system. So this is one of the parts that we have in our solutions, the NetID Portal, which is really that administration backend that you can use, but also the self-service backend, right? The next part that we have is actually the NetID client. So the NetID client is a piece of software that you install on the different devices that you have. And this piece of software actually makes the connection between your operating system and your machine and the YubiKey. And that enables you to access, for instance, having certificates inside the YubiKey that you can use for multiple things. For instance, opening the session for your machine, your workstation login, using the application for digital signature if you want to do that as well. NetID client is completely cross-platform, so you can actually use it on Windows, on Linux, on Mac, on Chrome OS as well. And what we have done is make sure that everything that is on the YubiKey is made easy for the operating system to actually understand. So on the one hand, we have the management tool, which is like lifecycle management and the self-service enrollment, etc. And then we have a client that we put on your device as well, right? And with that client, we can actually offer also like some, I would say, advanced cases, for instance, presenting a YubiKey from a host device to a virtual desktop infrastructure. This is something that we do. Or controlling what happens when a YubiKey is actually pulled out of your computer. Do I lock you out? Do I give you something else, etc., etc. And we also solve a little problem that users sometimes have is like, well, I have forgotten my PIN code. How do I get unlocked, right? And with the NetID client, we actually have a challenge response system to unlock the PIN on the YubiKey, right? So moving forward, this is really like the first question that we get whenever we talk to organization going on the journey towards phishing-resistant authentication with the YubiKey. How do I enroll my users? I have thousands, hundreds of users. I don't want to enroll their YubiKeys from an administrator and then go and give it to them. It's just too complicated. Well, with our solution, with the PKI management solution that we have, you have the possibility of offering self-service to your users. And there are multiple methods to do it, like the one that I'm illustrating here. You get a blank YubiKey, you plug it into your computer, you get an email. The email actually has a link for you with probably some code that you can use to actually enroll that YubiKey inside your system. Another thing, as I mentioned it a bit earlier as well, is we offer a very high level of self-service for the user who is actually using a YubiKey. So Patrick mentioned passwords, headache for the support, headache for the user, headache for everyone. Well, we want to reduce that headache when we actually move towards YubiKeys, right? This is one of the basic principles when we go towards that direction. But there's still some hygiene to be done, even with a YubiKey, right? So if we're using it for certificate-based authentication, like what we do with NetID, well, you need to renew the certificate at some point, right? If a token is lost, you actually want to block it. Now, we always tell users, like, you should have at least 2 YubiKeys because one is your backup, right? But if you have lost your main one and you use your second one to log in, you kind of want to block the one which is lost. Do I have to go to an administrator to do that, or can I do it myself? Well, with our solutions, you can actually do that as well. And of course, you have certain things such as unblocking a pin or changing the pin code on your YubiKey if you need to do that. This is also what we give you the ability to do with the software aspect of it. All right, and this is actually quite important for many people and more important for others, actually. So one of the things that I talked about a bit earlier was like, well, I want to know what's happening to my YubiKeys. How many YubiKeys have I been issued? How many are used inside the organization? Who has what YubiKey, etc., etc. We have that ability inside NetID Portal. Actually, as an administrator and operator, you can actually pull reports to know how many YubiKeys you have in stock, how many YubiKeys you have actually issued, how many YubiKeys have been broken. They never get broken, I know that for a fact, but still, if ever it does happen, you can still figure it out in the system. And the other thing is when it comes to a bit more regulated industries or industries which have compliance rules, well, you need to be able to trace everything that has been done inside your organization, right? And this is the ability that we give you as well with the NetID suite of product. The last point that I want to say is that our solutions is self-hosted. We do have it as a SaaS as well, but we cater for people as well who want to own their own infrastructure and their own system. So all of that is hosted inside your environment if you so desire. All right, I know I'm running out of time, so I think I'm almost done. Well, last slide, perfect. So I mentioned we are self-hosted by yourself if you want to, but some people don't want to manage that and they are like, well, give me the option of having it as a service. And we do actually have that as well, which we call our Secure Cloud NetID offering. With that, Patrick, I guess I give it back to you.
Thank you very much, Ashwin, for enlightening us on the management of YubiKeys, and also to you, Patrick, again, and for participating. And I would like to hand over to Nadine now.
Thank you very much, all of you. I haven't received any questions in the chat, so if you do have questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask them directly to the speakers. And if there are no further questions, just a short hint, our next webinar is on the 21st of November, and we talk about the EBF onboarder when it comes to migrating your UEM system. I'll send you the link afterwards for registering, and of course you'll receive further information about this webinar. And as there are no further questions, we would end the webinar at this point. I thank you all for joining, and I wish you all a very nice evening.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.